Ready? Good afternoon, everyone. Today, welcome to the MPO Policy Committee meeting. We are August 16th, 2023. The approximate time is 1:32. Our meeting location is here at City Laredo Council Chambers. We're at 1110 Houston Street, for anybody that does not know that. We're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Let's go ahead and have the roll call, please. Mr. Juan Mendiva.
Thank you, Judge. Yes, Ms. Briones will call roll.
Good afternoon. Judge Tano Tijerina,
President.
Mayor Dr. Victor V. Trevino,
Present.
Councilmember Melissa Cigarroa, Councilmember Ruben Gutierrez, Commissioner Jesse Gonzalez, Commissioner John Galo, Councilmember Vanessa Perez, Mr. Epigmenio Epi Gonzalez,
Present.
Mr. Jed Brown.
Present.
And just for the record, Commissioner Gonzalez is present as well.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
For the record, you have a quorum.
We do have a quorum. Very well, Commissioner. Very good. Let's go ahead and go into item number 3, citizens' comments. We have none at this particular time. Item 4, items requiring policy committee action. Approval of minutes of the meeting held on July 19, 2023. Does anybody have a motion or a second or questions or comments?
Second.
I have a motion. I have a second by Councilwoman Vanessa Perez, second by Jed Brown. Any other questions, comments? Any questions, comments? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Let's go ahead and go to item B, receive public testimony and approval of resolution number MPO 2023-11, adopting the FY 2022 annual listing of obligated projects, APL. Mr. Mendiva?
Yes, thank you, Chair. On this item, we brought it at the last meeting to open the public comment period. We didn't receive any public comments during that period. Today, we just need to receive any further public testimony and go ahead and accept this listing of federal projects that were obligated in the previous year. Again, this is a federal requirement.
Let me go ahead, before somebody moves a motion to close the public hearing, let's go ahead and call out anybody here for or against. Anybody here for or against this particular project? And one last time, anybody here for or against this particular project? There is none to be have, and do I have a request to close the public hearing, please?
Motion to close.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second to close the public hearing. Any questions, comments? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now what, Mr. Medina?
And we just need a motion to approve the resolution.
Motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second by Commissioner Gonzalez. Any questions, comments? Any opposed? Motion carries as well. Thank you. Let's go ahead and go into item C, discussing what possible action on programming of projects with carbon reduction program CRP funds.
Thank you. Thank you all. For the record, Juan Mendiva, MPO Director. So on this item, we're just going to give a quick overview of the carbon reduction program. This is a new federal program that MPOs are able to select projects for. So I'm going to just give a quick overview about the program, and then we do have a funding request through this program from the county, and I'm going to show you all how we got to these steps. But first off, just to introduce the carbon reduction program. This was a program that was created through the new Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Acts, right? So the bill authorized a new carbon reduction program, and it was codified as 23 United States Code 175 to reduce transportation emissions. The state of Texas is expected to receive approximately $641 million for fiscal year 2022 through 2026 in federal apportionment. And MPOs do have the authority to allocate their corresponding apportionments and select projects eligible for these carbon reduction program funds. The purpose of this, again, is to reduce transportation emissions through the development of a state carbon reduction strategy and by funding projects designed to reduce transportation emissions. Again, these projects are now going to the eligible projects, but it cannot be for new added capacity or new roadway type projects. So the eligible activities that we can use these funds for are alternative fuel vehicle deployment, an example given here, electric vehicle infrastructure rate, reduce emissions at port facilities, transportation alternatives such as bicycle and pedestrian facilities, diesel engine retrofit projects, and then also public transportation projects are eligible. Furthermore, we can also, projects that reduce environmental and community impacts of freight movements, for example, truck parking, including intelligent transportation systems, programs, projects that support congestion pricing and traffic congestion management technologies, and programs that help shift transportation demands, as well as programs that enhance vehicle to infrastructure connecting technology, reduce demands for roads, and also development of a carbon reduction strategy. The state is mandated to do this carbon reduction strategy, so they're working with the MPOs to create one at the state level. But with these funds, the MPO could also decide to do their own for our region. That is an option that we have.
Juan, without due respect, if I may, I'm not sure everybody else is asking this question in their minds, I am. I like to spend more money than I have, so my question is they got $641 million in the state of Texas, what is allocated to Webb County and to the city of Laredo?
I was getting there, and I'll jump to that slide and then I'll jump back. But
I just need to know budget before we
Yeah.
start spending it.
through 2026, it's approximately $4,884,536. So that's FY24 through FY26. As you see here in FY24, we're getting 2.8 million, FY25 shy of a million, and FY26 just a little over a million, 1,015,978. Right now, the bills, the bipartisan infrastructure law, right, and the IIJ is authorized through 2026. So the funding that we know is authorized through then. On the UTP, TxDOT went ahead and estimated future funding targets, but it's not an assurance that that money will be available depending on what happens, right, with that bill or the administration changes at the federal level. So that's the money that we're getting for our MPO. Like I mentioned, was the 4.8 million through 2026.
The only thing that makes me nervous about having those kind of monies is once we start getting into the consulting, it looks like a lot of money, but if we start going out there and start throwing this out to a bunch of consultants, we're gonna get ourselves into a pickle. So we need to be careful on how much we're spending on consultants and making sure that have the adequate amount of money, regardless of what project we want to do. I think that's really important.
Yeah, when speaking with our technical committee, I believe it was Mr. Garza from El Metro. He did mention, for example, an electric bus costs about $1 million, and then you still need the technology and infrastructure to support that. So just on one bus alone, that's electric, would be like $1 million. So that would wipe out pretty much 1 year worth of funding.
Objection?
Yes, of course.
Mr. Mendiva, if I understand right, just reading through the plan, thank you, that it represents, the money that we have would represent a 20% match of additional federal dollars? Is that how it would map out so that our funding can be leveraged for bigger projects?
So these funding targets are what's on the TxDOT UTP, and this includes the 80% federal portion plus 20% local portion. That's expected to be provided by the local government that's doing the project, right, or the project sponsor. So when we award these funds, we're awarding total project development costs or construction costs, but in there, 80% is federal money and the other 20% is local money.
So the 4.8 represents the total budget?
That's correct.
Okay, and then the other is that it's a 65%, 35% allocation. So 65% was granted to the individual MPOs, but there's 35% granted to the state of Texas, and I believe TxDOT has some ability or discretion to allocate the additional 35% of, I wrote down, but several $1 million, so that theoretically, we could increase the budget of something if we have partners on board and the state deems the project
Correct.
eligible.
That 65% is for urban areas, so the MPOs have that discretion, but the other 35%, TxDOT, maintains that, and they're able to select projects across the state, so they're able to use that in rural areas as well. So that's, like you mentioned, you can do projects that are outside of the MPO boundary with that money as well.
Well-
Thank you for the distinction.
And with that said, if you don't mind, discussion with possible action on programming of projects. So my question is, how exactly are you gonna want us to, this body, how do you want this body to proceed with programming of projects?
Yeah, so I have a timeline of how we're doing it, and Either it's a project request from the county as well right now at this time. So let me just go over this timeline. Initially, TxDOT started talking to the MPOs through a coordination meeting to discuss this program back in February 17th, 2023, so earlier this year. So they are providing that allocation from the previous years in FY24, so it's finally been programmed in the UTP. So that's why we're just talking about this program. TxDOT had asked us, right, to start looking at projects because of the time limitations of when you need to spend these funds by and everything. They were asking if we had projects that were already eligible to just swap the funding for these. But most of the projects that we have are added capacity projects, so they wouldn't qualify for these funds. So what we started doing, we reached out to the technical committee. We met with them in March, the first presentation on this program to them. We asked them to come back with some projects. Then we met again in April. We did get a request from the county after that. And then right now we're bringing it forward to you. So we're now go over that recommendation. There's still going to be funding available if we decide to program the funding for this specific project from the county. But I just wanted to provide this timeline so you all were aware of the work that's gone into trying to select the project.
Judge, may I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Mr. Mendive, that's the slide I wanted to see. If ultimately Webb County, City of Laredo has the ability over 4 years to bring in $11.7 million, is that the total amount? I'm trying to understand the match. We have to come up with 20% of that, about $3.2 million in order to get to that? How does that work?
It works through projects, right? So that total, that's over that 11 million over those 10 years from FY24 to FY33.
Okay.
Yeah, so that 20% you're speaking about is done through projects. So for example, I'm going to use YSCU as an example, even though it wouldn't be eligible for this, but I'll use that as an example. That 20% that you all are providing, for that project, that would be included in that total. So when we're awarding the amount, it's the total project cost that's being awarded. So that's just the way it's on the UTP, and the tables that show those funding targets. I always put that note at the bottom that it includes the required 20% local match.
And by when, I'm sorry,
Oh,
I'd like to add on
Yes.
that as well. By when do we need to put our match in?
So this project right now, let's say with the funding that we provide, that would be by the end of September of 2025. That's when you would need to,
So the city and the
Obligate the
county
project.
would have to come up with 3 point whatever million for the 20% match, is that correct?
it depends on the project, yeah. So if you want, I can get into
Hold
the,
on, now, are we talking about total or we're talking about projects? No.
yeah, what you're talking about right now, it seems like it's total, right?
Oh.
So, but I think it's really on a project by project basis. So I think, so it depends on the project and the sponsor.
Well,
So
then give me a second. You just said we have to spend it by 2025, the 11 million, right?
Down to 20.
we need to obligate the projects by the ones that are for these first year funds for FY24. We need to have that obligated by the end of FY25. So that just means that there needs to be federal authorization, that there's funds committed to that project, but then you still have a window to construct after that.
Very good, okay, I got
I've
you.
got a question, Jim.
Yes, sir, please.
These buses that are $1 million each is now, and what about by the end of the project, will they still be $1 million, or are we anticipating more?
Yeah, so that was just an example that El Metro had provided on how these funds can be used, but just to give an example that a lot of the money can go only towards one bus, but that's not something that we're exploring at this time. So, but we can look further into it.
Well, you perked his ears up, so.
The other thing is, are they foreign or domestic?
I think, I'm not sure, right now, we're not looking at purchasing buses.
All right.
So
Okay.
there might be some stipulations on, where you need to buy the buses from, but that's not something that we're looking at right now. But that's an example of an eligible, an activity that would be eligible for funding with these funds. But right now, that's not something that's being explored by this MPO or by the Metro either.
All right, okay, thank you.
Yeah, Judge, what I'm wondering on a program like this, if it's like the Safe Streets for All grant that we're getting ready to start spending money on, we have to spend our money first and then we get the 80% back. So we have to really, accounting-wise, have to run a perfect show. And I'm wondering if this is the same way to get that $11.7 million over 10 years. You may have to spend it and get money back as you go. I don't know the answer to that, but I'm wondering how that works once we get to it.
That's correct. And maybe, I don't think I included here on the slides, but this program specifically has been programmed under TxDOT's Category 10, and they called it Category 10 Carbon Reduction Program. So it's similar to Category 7, Category 9. where, you have these targets for these years and you've got to program these projects. And the project sponsors that submit or that request these funds, you're correct, Mr. Brown, that, they would have to front the costs and then they would be reimbursed as the project is advancing.
I'm sorry, Joe, here. I guess he wants to say a couple words.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna, RJ got us on the transit director. I just was trying to help address the question. And as we come up with projects, let's say, for example, the Metro may have an opportunity to purchase support units or a lift type of units and different modes of service that we're going to be either introducing or that we currently have, that we could have electric vehicles. This would be a project as an example for that. And Metro would come up with the 20% recommendation as far as Metro receives a dedicated sales tax. So we usually use the sales tax as a funding source for the 20%. But each project would have to introduce their 20% local match. I believe that's what where he was leading to, depending on each project.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Garza. Juan, I do have a question as well.
Yes.
How do you want the info on what projects we might be interested in? And I think it's actually gonna, this practice will actually help me out quite a bit, because here I'm trying to think of, I'm hearing all this stuff from the city, but exactly how can we help or accommodate or projects for the county? So this is something I'm gonna have to brush up on and do my homework. My question to you now is, how do you want us to proceed? All of us here probably have certain projects that we probably would like to see on this particular list, and how do we set them in order?
Correct. So yeah, it's a good question, and right now we're working on a per request basis. Like I
Right now, you're
mentioned.
telling us a timeline, you're telling us
Yeah, we met
everything
with the
like
technical
that.
committee.
That's understandable.
So we met with our
You're giving us a game plan.
city, so we do
rules.
have so we're presenting this, I'm giving the overview. We actually have a request from the county, and there's still funds available. And this committee can decide, what, we only want to use these funds for these type of projects, or we want to do a carbon reduction strategy, or we want to use funds, for public transit. But right now, we do have a request before you from the county to request funds to construct an approximately 3.9 mile, 10-foot shared use path for pedestrians and cyclists within the existing right-of-way on Manganaheim Road, with a total project cost of $3.12 million. And there's two segments to this project. This was submitted through the county through your consultant.
Yes, of course.
So segment 1 is from State Highway 20 to 2.5 miles east of State Highway 20. And the estimated construction cost for that shared use path would be $2 million. Segment 2 is from US 83 to State Highway 20. And that would require an interlocal agreement because it's within the city limits. But the estimated construction cost for that is $1.12 million. We discussed this project with the technical committee, and both the staff and the technical committee recommended programming that $3.12 million in total project costs, which would consist of $2,496,000, which is the 80% federal share, and $624,000, which is the 20% local match. That would leave you a remaining balance through FY 2026 of $1.7 million, and if this funding is authorized in the future, through 2033, it would be $8.6 million. So we're working on a, pretty much request basis.
Judge, can I make a comment?
Yes, please.
So, one of the projects or issues that I had identified early on when I came in was, that the El Metro service, we didn't even have that to the past, I think it was past Faskin. We weren't even servicing with the public transportation, the residents that live on the Mines Road area. And we know that a lot of the people that work in the Mines Road area to accommodate all the businesses that we're growing, they come from either downtown or they come from the south and they commute. So all of that commuting, regular passenger vehicles adds to the congestion problem. And we do have a large portion out there that's county and city. So I had kind of thought that maybe we could work with a program with El Águila and El Metro to kind of figure out a way to service all those people and maybe bring people that live in the county to come and work at some of these facilities or come into town easier, because there is kind of an inconsistency in the service. And not only that, but if the intent of public transportation is to be able to service people, for them not to have their own vehicle, we're not accomplishing that right now in the Mines Road because we don't serve them on Sundays. Saturdays, the routes are very, very limited. And maybe buying big buses isn't the idea. Maybe we need more circulators and kind of move them around. And I don't know if circulators would qualify under this, but I think it would be worthwhile for the city and the county in the Mines Road area to figure out if there's a way that we could work on something that services all those people that would also help us accomplish our goals of keeping up with these nearshoring trends that we're going to be seeing in the next 5 years here. If we don't do something in that corridor to kind of alleviate the congestion, and I think this is a good opportunity for us to start talking about public transportation and truck parking and stuff like that.
Okay, so other than this particular county project that you have,
Yes.
very good points, by the way. That's all you have right now, the county?
That's the request we have right now. We've talked to TxDOT a little bit about truck parking. Again, someone would need to lead that, right? Would it be the TxDOT leading the project, the city, the county, to create that truck parking to reduce emissions? So right now, our, I guess staff's recommendation is to work with projects that are pretty much that the right-of-way is existing that are ready to move forward because of that, potential of the funding lapsing, at least for the funding for these first few years. But we do want to identify other projects and we want to work with you all and our planning partners, right? The city, the county, RMA, TxDOT to make sure that we are funding projects that are meaningful, right, for our area and that are going to help reduce carbon emissions. So I think it can be.
I mean, if we have this project already identified and planned on and it's 3.12 million, I mean, I think it would be okay to move forward with that as like the first phase of this and then maybe work towards a plan.
Is that your motion then?
Yeah, sure, I'll make that motion.
Very well, I'll second it. Now, let me go ahead and address this. I have a motion on the table. Does everybody understand the motion? Very well. Okay, I have a second on the table. Any other questions or comments on this particular motion? Just for everybody's sake, please state exactly what the motion was for and what it's about.
Okay. This is to program carbon reduction program funds for a project that's $3.12 million to construct an approximately 3.9-mile, 10-foot shared use path for pedestrians and cyclists with an existing right-of-way on Maganahan Road. This would be a county-sponsored project.
Very good. Seems like Maganahan Road here before long is going to be within the city limits anyway. All right, I have a motion, I have a second. Any other questions,
Judge,
comments?
another comment, just with the request to work towards incorporating a project for the Mines Road area, the county and the city, to kind of work on those congestion issues out there. We need a plan.
I think it's really important that, you guys are obviously supporting the county initiative. I'd be more inclined to, let's do a city initiative now, something like that. And I just think we need to share it. I think we could actually all work together and collaborate one way or the other, because in all reality, this is our backyard, regardless if you're in the city or in the county. So this is all going to be perfect for this. So I think that's the way we need to do it. Good point.
Something I wanted to do and I've been doing, we've had these conversations with our technical committee that includes city and county staff. Also, now that the CIP is approved, I wanted to sit down with our city engineer, kind of go through the list, see what might be there that's eligible, because that's an important component of this, that we want to make sure, one, that it's eligible, and that it can get to construction within a few years, right? And hopefully, this program gets authorized beyond 2026, so I think we need to start planning for what type of projects we want to do to be ready when that money is available. So for example, truck parking or other things involving public transportation.
Okay. Can I close this agenda, please? Yeah, if you don't mind. I have a motion second. Any other questions, comments? Any opposed? Motion carries. Yes, ma'am.
In that same vein, I think Councilmember Perez brings up an excellent point that there are ways for the county and city to work together. 359 is very similar. We have populations that live on county right by the city boundaries, and there is a dearth of public transportation, and that area is growing. So seeing what can work on the Mines Road makes perfect sense for it to work also on 359. And as Mr. Mendiva was explaining, those projects need to be planned in order that they may be eligible for funding. So I hope that that planning can occur out of this meeting. And I think he brought up also truck parking and electrification. if there's a way to find where city land or county land, if there's joint land to be used, I think truck electrification to reduce the idling would fit perfectly into this plan here. I am assuming that that type of project, once the land is identified, would not be that difficult to get started, because it's a parking lot essentially with high-tech electrification for the trucks. And so I would be very much interested in trying to pursue that, and hopefully that can come out of this committee. That's the step I'm not sure. Where does the planning come from?
And I was about to move a motion. I'd like to move a motion that, or let me ask this before I move the motion. Is it okay that we could all maybe have, I know we're not really in a time crunch, but we kind of are, so maybe within the next month to 2 months, we could all maybe have our input and send it into you? And that way we can start getting a list. So maybe for the first month, we got 60 days or 30 days. Let's put a list together, the request of all our colleagues up here, and send them to you, I guess, to the email. And then we kind of put them together. And then within another 2 months from now, we could kind of prioritize that list. And at least we're moving forward, because I want everybody to have an input. I think it's very important that we all have an input.
Yeah, no, and we can do that, and we do that for other programs as well, through the MTP, right, through the long-range plan. So, but like you said, since there's a limit on these funds, we can start that earlier, and for the future years, we can incorporate that into our long-range plan.
So do we need to move a motion, or are you going to be okay with just us sending you a request?
You can make the motion, because just to make it more formal.
I will move the motion for all the MPO board to send in their request to Mr. Juan Mendive, some way, somehow, through a meeting or email,
Yeah,
or
you can do an email.
however you want to do it, and then you prioritize it and maybe bring it back to us in 2 to 3 months. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine.
I'll second that for discussion.
Very well.
So I just would like to
Is that what you're asking for?
see if there's a way that, you can start to put some of these pieces together on an idea for us to kind of, because I'm gonna tell you right now, that's my suggestion is focusing on that corridor somehow with the truck parking, electrification if possible, and looking at all expanded routes between El Metro and El Águila. So if there could be some kind of idea of that,
Yeah.
you can bring that. at
Yeah,
the
we can
next-
work with our technical committee to come up with that. And that was the idea of why we started talking to them, right? Because they're the ones that really know what projects are happening. So that's how, we came up with this. And just because there's not a request from the city, that doesn't mean that they haven't provided things. And there's things that they're looking at too. But it's just more about, identifying which one specifically is a priority for the city, and then priority for the MPO, right? If that's a project that the MPO wants to look at.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and call the question. I have a motion. I have a second on the floor. Any other questions or comments on this particular? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. That's it?
Yeah, for that item, yes.
Very good. I appreciate you. Thank you. All right, so let's move on. Where are we now? D. Item 4D, discussion with possible action on the Achar Ruthinger Road project. I believe that's City of Laredo, right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Good news or bad news?
Maybe my grandchildren will eventually see this moving forward. And I don't have any grandchildren right now.
That's bad. That means it's bad.
Good afternoon, everyone. Claudia Perez Saavedra from the Engineering Department. I'm here to give you the update for the Achar Ruthinger Road, that is the State Highway 84. In reference to the right-of-way acquisition, the 8 parcels has been received for review, and we're coordinating with TxDOT to confirm the information that includes any existing utilities within any of the parcels to be compensated. The parcels shall be turned over free and clear of any utilities. The title company will require release of easement for each parcel. So on the 8 parcels, the review is complete, and we are just waiting on receive the confirmation that we don't have any utilities on this type of land and on these lands. On the utility adjustments, we are coordinating with Premier Civil Engineering we have a utility matrix identifying the conflicts. We have 10. The first one is with AEP distribution, that we have an existing utility pole, and we have a station of the road identified. AT&T, we have a utility line attachment on the same existing utility pole. On the NDHR Trust, we have an abandoned 8-inch gas line. We have the stationing of the road. Kimmer Ridge, Texas, we do have a gas line that it has to be lowered. We have AEP transmission lines with potential vertical clearance in 3 locations. AT&T underground line that it has to be adjusted. We have another Kimber Ridge, Texas gas line, but this one is with non-potable well water line in 2 locations. We have asked to all of these utility companies to give us a schedule by when they're going to be relocated, and they're working, and the schedule is pending to be submitted to us, as well as the opinion of the estimated cost. All of the conduit installation that is going to be under the proposed right-of-way, especially the water well casing, in case that they need it. It has to meet the utility accommodation policy and go through the permitting process. On the next item, we, the city, and Premier Engineering and TxDOT, we have been meeting with AEP transmission team to discuss the potential horizontal and vertical clearance conflicts. This meeting happened at the beginning of the month, August the 3rd. Premier Civil Engineering submitted the transmission pole data that was requested on August the 9th. The AEP transmission team will begin reviewing this information sometime next week to prepare a model and let us know and confirm if we really need to do some adjustments into the vertical and horizontal. They requested a month to prepare the model. In reference of, again, on the meeting that we have with AEP to discuss the potential pole relocation in case that we have to, depending on the model that they're gonna run and give us the information. Premier Engineering, like I said, they provided the information to AEP. If we have any possible utility agreements, we need to start now because we know that they take time. If we do have these conflicts with AEP, with the transmission line, we have to develop a construction management plan. This plan has to certify that all utilities are clear. If for any reason we found that we have some conflicts, especially what we are very concerned is with AEP, they may take time. And we had to make clear to the contractor and how is it gonna impact the construction schedule.
When you say it may take time,
Yes.
can you define that, please?
Yes, it's because in our meeting that we have with the AEP transmission team, they told us if in case that they have to do some adjustments to these possible conflicts, that they may need a year to do the adjustments. And that's why we have to develop this construction management plan to see if we can continue with the letting date of May 2024, and then identify these conflicts and see the contractor can start working in other locations. But we had to identify it in this construction management plan, submit it to TxDOT, and TxDOT has to submit it to the administration office to review it and approve it. So that's what we have up to now.
And what would be the cost for the reallocation?
We have been asking that question to them. They haven't provided us a firm number. They just gave us an estimated, but it's subject to change, more or less around $1 million, but they are not sure yet. And so that's why we didn't want to put it here, because it's just
conversations. We don't have something in paper telling us how much is it gonna cost.
Judge, may I?
Yes, please.
So, we had an issue, we talked about this, I don't know, Robert, is he here? Roberto? No? Oh, there you are. We spoke about that, and it's a formula that AP uses. It has something to do with the heat, and apparently with the heat, it drops the line a certain distance down, and right now they have to like recalculate this formula to see if the poles are gonna be hanging down too low. That's kind of my understanding of the whole thing, but I think that some of these poles are maybe located towards not the starting part of the project, so there might be a way that we can, if we did have to move them, that we could still continue the construction in the beginning part of wherever the road is gonna start, and then work to relocate the poles at the same time, so that by the time the road gets to that area, the poles have already been relocated and we can continue moving. That's ideal, best case scenario, or if we have to move the poles, and best case scenarios, we don't have to. But we don't have an AP rep here to kind of explain this to us, because at this point, I think we're all, anxious to get going, especially with this whole like funding gap thing that we just went through right now, and pushing this thing out another year, then we don't, we're gonna potentially run into another funding gap issue. So, is there anybody from AEP that can kind of, do they have an expedited program where they can evaluate this quicker? I mean, it's a formula that they have to do, so how long is it? I know they asked for a month, but that was 2 weeks ago? So right now they're just needing 2 more weeks, is that kind of the status?
Yes, and we're gonna meet with them again, with our consultant and tech. So we have having these type of meetings, and we're asking and especially informing AP that if they can give us the model results before the month that they requested, because we really need to know if the 3 conflicts location, they need to get adjusted or not.
And what about these other utility conflicts? I mean, moving of the gas line, the water well line, I mean, are all of these things that are gonna hold the project up at all?
No, on these ones I'm gonna say they're more easy to relocate. We are asking at this moment the property owner to contact the utility company to see how much the utility company is gonna request to adjust the lines. And obviously the city of Laredo is responsible for these expenses. So we are just waiting for them to give us and to let us know how much money do they need to lower the line and to give us the construction schedule.
Judge, I have a question. Why are we asking the property owner to make the phone calls if we're the ones that have to do it? We don't have somebody that can get that
Yes.
information? Because if we're relying on them, I think we need to have somebody who can
We do have it, it's our consultant, and we're just following the protocol. As soon as the owner contacts the company, and they're copying, everything is through emails. They copy us, and then we jump, and then we start talking directly.
At what point are we the owner of the right-of-way? I mean, isn't it our responsibility to acquire the right-of-way?
Correct.
So
We're
then
responsible.
At what point are we gonna be the ones that own this property so that we can make phone calls on this property's behalf?
Well, on this behalf, on the right-of-way, like I said, we're just doing the coordination, and as soon as we get the environmental clearance, that's when we can contact directly the property owners to acquire the property.
And that's another question, Judge, is like, when is the environmental study gonna be done? Because I know that that's been kind of.
Well, we already got the environmental assessment document reviewed and approved. We still have to give a public, doing a notification of the newspaper. We hopefully, we can still make it with the morning times. We'll be this Sunday, and we have to give 30 days for anyone to provide any last minute comments. After that, it gets pretty much approved. It gets back to us, then, if we got any comments or not. Remember, we say no comments, and they're giving us our final approval. So we're looking at the end of September, but probably in about a month.
Why hopefully? Like, why is it hopefully we can make it for
Well,
Sunday?
I mean, we're not expecting any major comments or any major opposition environmentally in this case. We still have to give the public 30 days to comments after the final document. It's gonna be, like I said, posted on the newspaper.
So you have the final document, you just need to post it, and
Yes,
why
and
can't it be,
give-
what is
oh.
holding up from being posted this Sunday?
Oh, well, we already got, we actually, it was yesterday, today, we got the approval from Austin to go ahead and post.
Oh, okay.
We're just working with the newspaper to have the
Sure, they'll have
notification
room
posted.
for-
Yeah.
They have timelines sometimes, so I think the newspaper has deadlines, so when you get submitted, post a certain day, so that's probably why Roberto was
For
mentioning.
Sunday, I think we're good.
Well, I mean, hopefully we can do this. We're working on that right now.
My question would be, on the $1 million, is that the county's portion or the city's portion?
City's portion.
Have you guys already allocated that?
We didn't know that, we don't even know if we need to. But we should have money, there should be money allocated in the project already,
Correct.
right? We have some money for the
Yes.
acquisition, how much do we have?
I don't have that number, but I know that we do have it. The city engineer was talking with the finance director, and the city engineer informed me that we do have the resources.
Well, hopefully we can move faster than later, so I do not want to see it go another year.
No, we can't afford it. TechStot, I don't know if TechStot has anything else to add to it, because I know it's TechStot coordinating, but I would like to request that somebody from MPO other than TechStot be part of those meetings with AEP. I mean, I'd like to sit there if I can and help with this.
So, if I may, yesterday I had a conversation with Representative Raymond, and he's volunteering to kind of have a meeting just to bring everybody together. AEP, some of Kinder Morgan, I think, is one of the utility companies, and anyway, just to kind of make sure that everybody understands that sense of urgency and try to get these things, adjusted, or at least to have a plan, right? Because, like Ms. Saavedra said, I mean, we do have the opportunity to do a construction management plan, but it's not a guarantee that it's going to get approved, right? We have to demonstrate that there's not going to be an impact to the contractor as far as construction activity. So it's something that we, right now is the right time for us to start working on that construction management plan, if that's what we're going to end up needing, right? So.
And who's the one that works on that?
So I know we ultimately have to review it and submit it to administration for approval, but like anything else, right, our contract, our plans become a part of the contract, right? So we need to make sure that we detail the areas that the contractor's not gonna be able to have access to during construction, so that we don't have I guess a damage claim or a delay claim from the contractor later on that, they were delayed. And so that's really the construction management plan is basically then coming up with the sequence of construction so that we can proceed with the work. We have enough work for the contractor to do before that, in the meantime, the utility work can continue, right? So without any impact.
Judge, can I ask one more question?
Very well.
Well, how long, are you all gonna start working on that plan, soon, or are you waiting for AP report and then you can start working on it? Like, it won't be ready for the next MPO meeting? Probably for the
No, I mean, well, I guess
October?
the information that we're gonna be getting from AEP here in the next few weeks, that's gonna help us, start looking at, okay, do we need a management plan or not, right? I mean, there's still the possibility that we don't need it, Again, I think we're just being cautious at this time and just making sure that we're checking off all the boxes, right? So.
Thank you.
Yes, as soon as we receive the confirmation from AEP, if the 3 locations are in conflict, or hopefully only one, we don't know yet until they run the model, that's when we can start developing the construction management plan with the exact location of the utilities, the scheduling, when they're going to start construction, when they're expecting to finish, and the estimated cost. So it's like a matrix
Thank you.
with all that information, but we need to wait from this utility company so we can develop this matrix.
Very well. Thank you.
Thank
for the update. Appreciate it. All right, let's move forward. That was with the HR Rubensburg Road project. Okay, reports, item 5, reports and presentations. Give me 1 second before we do that. I believe Mr. Anthony Garza, would you like to say something, our consultant for Webb County, on that particular, I think you wanted to speak to something about the carbon reduction program or something?
Yes, sir, just a quick comment, and this discussion is a great segue from what just happened, and it's in the identification of how to spend that money. There's a really quick sunset date on the first 3 years of the carbon reduction funding, so we look to identify a project that could be implemented very quickly or we lose the money. So because we don't have the challenges like a CHAR, there's 100 feet of existing right-of-way there. They're about to do a water line project, so this just brought up the idea, if we're gonna go in there and disturb the right-of-way on the south side, why not put a sidewalk over where we put in the water line and do a huge quality of life project for that area? And the subsequent discussion, to your point, Councilwoman Figueroa, is the county will be reaching out with an interlocal. Staff is preparing an interlocal so that the county is allowed to work on the segment from Loop 20 to 83. So they want to get it taken care of, 4 lanes, shared use path and all that. So that will be the partnerships, and that'll be a good first one.
Thank you, sir, appreciate you. Very good. Item 5, reports and presentations, no action required. It's a presentation by TxDOT to discuss the Ports to Plain project.
Thank you, Judge. I know we do have people from TxDOT coming from out of town to present today.
Very good.
Thank you, Judge.
If you don't mind, you could come over here in the middle if you'd like. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, committee members. I'm Kerry Carson. I'm with the Texas Department of Transportation in Austin. I'm also the TxDOT Project Development Manager for the Ports to Plain system in Texas. So I greatly appreciate everybody's time here today. So the purpose of our speech here today is just to kind of give everybody just a brief overview of our efforts, our implementation strategy efforts that we're taking over the next several months. We completed our Ports to Plain feasibility study back in 2020. And so after that, now the next steps are the implementation strategy efforts. And so today I'm just going to kind of give everyone just a brief overview of what those efforts look like.
Very well, sir.
Okay. So as we can see, the Ports to Plains corridor is significant from a national and international standpoint. Connection is provided across the United States from Mexico to Canada, although the Ports to Plains corridor extends from Laredo to Denver, Colorado. The only portion from Laredo to Raton, New Mexico was designated as the future interstate in FY22 Omnibus Appropriations Bill. So looking here at some of the benefits of an interstate highway, we can definitely see the improved safety, number one, TxDOT and Go, mobility and connectivity, improved freight movement, alleviate congestion, improving travel time, reducing travel time cost, and increasing access to all the markets along the corridor, and creating economic opportunities. So as we see here, some of the safety design standards of an interstate highway. We have 2 different examples here. We have an interstate section here with frontage roads, cross-section, and we have ones without the frontage roads. As far as the right-of-way, the width and everything of the right-of-way, we're looking between 300 to 500 feet. And then we can also look and see, we have interstate main lanes on the top, we have, and on the bottom as well. So we have higher design speeds on the interstates, limited access points, and grade separations needed. Again, we're going to need larger right-of-way widths if needed, and entrance and exit ramps, decel and acceleration lanes as well. So, enabling legislation for development of an interstate highway. Interstate highways are subject to a uniform set of design standards throughout the country. These high design standards set the interstate system above all other components of the national highway system and ensure consistent design. So for designation of an existing highway section, this does not currently meet interstate standards. The state DOT will not need to redesign or reconstruct the highway section to meet those standards before beginning the designation process. Constructing a highway to meet interstate design standards typically take years to complete. So looking at the characteristics of the region, we can see that the corridor is 963 miles long. Existing I-27, we have 125 miles. I-35, we have 30 miles. Future interstate, we have 808 miles. Also, we're looking at 30 cities, 30 towns along the route, 26 counties, 6 districts, and 5 MPOs. So of non-interstate miles, we're looking at 808. Interstate miles, we're looking at 155 miles. These are miles that currently meet interstate criteria. The 808 currently do not meet the criteria. So we're looking at 90 active projects along the corridor. We're looking at almost $1.5 billion, 1.46 to be exact, in construction costs. We have bridge projects, we have 12 of those, and those are around $122 million. We have 3 interchange projects, roughly $185 million. We have 62 miles of added capacity, we're looking at $995 million on that. 46 rehab maintenance projects at $124 million. The new location, we currently have nothing on that. And we have 17 safety projects at about $32 million. So here we can see some of the planned and program projects from the Laredo District. Partially funded projects here are going to include constructing a 4-lane divided highway along US 277, US 83, and I-35. Projects listed in the 2023 UTP are going to include improvements along US 83 and I-35 as well. Future and partially funded projects also along US 277 and US 83. So what is the Ports and Plains implementation strategy efforts? Well, we can see that it's a comprehensive planning process to guide TxDOT, particularly districts, on sequencing the upgrading to interstate standards of the roadways comprising the system, identifying where relief routes or additional planning studies may be needed along the corridors, and also estimated funding needed for construction. So general approach in planning the Ports and Plains system in Texas, we want to build existing interstate highways, I-20, I-35, not just radiate from the existing I-27. We also want to avoid project planning to interstate standards in areas that do not connect to an existing interstate or highway section. We want to avoid federal lands to the extent practicable, military installations, national grasslands, and national recreation areas. We also want to identify some 4-lane highway sections, both undivided and divided, and also some highways serve as the main street for communities. Roads on a new alignment or relief routes especially are likely in some areas to avoid a significant number of displacements impacting environmental features. So we can kind of see here some of the key elements of our implementation strategy efforts. Back in spring of 2023, we had our listening sessions to inform everybody and just to get feedback from everybody. Now we're currently working on our public survey, and now we're currently working on the district MPO workshops. This is all taking place this summer. And in the fall of this year, we're going to be preparing our strategy plan. And then we'll have our final documents by the end of the year. So some of the things that we consider looking at our Ports and Plains implementation strategy efforts are multimodal considerations. We're tying in transit, rail, active transportation such as bike and pedestrian, and also port connections. With many of our studies before, we haven't really incorporated a lot of these multimodals into our plans and our efforts. And now that we are doing this, now we're taking a broader look at all of the considerations regarding multimodal in our studies. So emerging technologies is another thing that we're also looking at on our efforts. We have our National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure, NEVI program. Also looking at connected and automated vehicles along the corridor. Also looking at ITS, Intelligent Transportation Systems. This will be trip planning, truck parking availability system, our TPAS, which will allow the truck drivers to be able to use this application looking ahead before they get to an actual destination where there's going to be parking and stuff and availability for them. So interstate standards, requirements prior to construction, TxDOT, we are required to have a feasibility study, which we just completed back in 2020. We're also required to have traffic and safety analysis, environmental clearance. We go through our public involvement, engineering and design, our IHAR, our Interstate Access Justification Report, any railroad agreements, and right-of-way acquisition and utility adjustments, inclusion of the project in financially constrained plans, and also our UTP, our Unified Transportation Program, Statewide Transportation Improvement Program, which is our STIP, and our TIP, our Transportation Improvement Program. So looking at funding and project selection, currently we said there's no specific federal or state funding program set aside to build future interstate highway projects. Projects compete with all other Texas highway improvement projects for funding. And in our project selection, we have an annual project scoring system that evaluates all projects prior to developing the UTP each year. Each project is going to compete for funding during the annual project selection process that we have in our UTP. So I know this is probably a lot of information for everybody to digest this afternoon. So here's our contact information. We have Roberto's contact information in mine as well. And again, I'm so grateful and appreciate the opportunity to be able to be here this afternoon.
955 minutes, that's not that bad of a deal. Not with what is it? I bet you Commissioner and you would be really excited because I could tell you I could spend money pretty quick. With the $40 billion surplus that the state of Texas has, what's $1 billion to Webb County, the I-27 corridor? Nothing. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Judge, if I may ask, I was just
Excuse
wondering,
me?
if I may ask something? Yeah, I was just wondering if we can get a copy of the presentation, and we can distribute that. Thank you.
Very well. All right, I appreciate that. Okay, let's move on. Let me get out of here. Let's see what I'm doing. I think the last one is the RMA, is that correct? Yes. Status report by the Regional Mobility Authority.
Hello, Judge.
Yes, sir.
As always in your packets, we've provided an update on the projects that we're working on. We're getting ready to get really, really busy with Safe Streets for All, with Vallecillo, some projects that the city has asked us to work on, I think are going to start pretty soon with Concord Hills, the extension there in South Laredo, and then with another phase of Springfield. Then we're working on TRZs right now that the city has expressed an interest in. So we have a bunch of things that are getting ready to happen. I'm excited. I think if I did my math correctly, by the way, earlier on the carbon project, we've got about $8.6 million available for other projects to attach to. And I know I can recall recently we were asked to provide, we the RMA were asked to provide a support letter to the city of Laredo on a carbon emission related project that had to do with signalization. That was for a grant, but I'm sure that's something that could be considered here too, that you know, if the signals are timed better, vehicles aren't idling as long, polluting the air. So that's that. I'll throw that one in there. What's that?
Smart grant.
Yes. But yeah, there's no guarantee that grants get awarded, so that's just another area maybe to look at. But that's our update. If there's any specific questions on what we're working on or any project you'd like to hear more about, we're here to answer.
Anybody? Anything, colleagues?
You know what, I like it more when I serve up here, because when I was out there, you always had so many questions for me. This is much better.
You're part of the group now. It's boring when we ask the same person.
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
The
Please.
second phase of Springfield,
Yes, sir.
when is that projected?
I would think engineering might be able to tell us better, but my understanding, there was 4 phases of Springfield to be done. Phase 1, 2, 3, and 4. 3 is the one we just, that was just finished here and had the ribbon cutting here a couple weeks ago. The city identified phase 2 as the next one they want to work on, and we're contributing $1 million to that project to help expedite it, but I don't know the exact timeline. I've asked a similar question, Mayor, and hopefully really quickly. I think that the design is there. So I think it's maybe a matter of right-of-way acquisition. I'm not 100% sure though. But I hope that gets done pretty quickly to connect it from International to Shiloh. And then there's only a little piece up there in Phase 4 that connects to Loop 20. So that whole part of that corridor between Interstate 35 and McPherson will really be opened up when those open up.
Okay, thank you.
Judge, I would like to add something. I mean, again, it's just a comment, and we probably should have added to the agenda, but anyway, this month, as you may be aware of, we had a very successful letting. We actually let, I believe, 6 or 7 projects, and the majority obviously here in Webb County, but 2 major projects, US 59 extension that let early this month. The engineered estimate was 311 million. It came in at 344 million and actually got approved today by the commission. We also let the State Highway 359 project, the extension, the 5-lane extension further out east. That came in a little bit under engineering estimate, which was, I believe like 47.6 million. So overall, here in the Laredo district, we let over 400 million this past month of construction. So that accounted for about 25% of the state's letting for August, which was the highest letting, to date, which was 1.6 billion. So we had almost a quarter of that money basically come here to the Laredo district, and obviously the majority to Webb County. So so now in construction, we're looking to, just in Webb County alone, we're gonna be having close to $580 million worth of construction once these 2 projects kind of kick in. So again, there's a lot of things happening, again, but it's obviously through the help coordination with Webb County and the city of Laredo also that have made these projects, come to fruition, right? So I just kind of wanted to share that with the group.
Well, I will say, yes, it has been a testament of this board and City of Laredo, and all of us, Texas included. But it sure does look good on you right now.
You want to negotiate my contract?
I think, I could do that. That would be an easy one. I wouldn't mind making some interest on that.
Get him to Ruthinger Road, and we'll
I'll
talk.
be your agent if you like. It's no
So,
problem.
and then we have obviously a char roofing year next year, hopefully everything gets squared away. We also have other major projects coming to the area. So yeah, it looks very promising here for the district and obviously for Webb County and the city of Laredo.
I think it's, and I'll state this, I used to live in Waco my wife went to Baylor, so back 30 years ago now. It seemed like, when we drive from Laredo to Baylor, to Waco, it seemed like it was always under construction. I just finished traveling it again, it was still under construction, still under construction, still under construction. And I saw a quote the other day that said, perfection is always under construction. And, construction is good, and things that are going on and the lettings and all this is good stuff. I know that sometimes we're behind the 8 ball. It's very difficult to go with the times and the demands of the times. But we're working, at times we're working with 2 hands cuffed behind our back. At times we're, one-handed, tied behind our back. But we're doing, every step takes a process, and that process, I know it's been very hard. Char Ruthinger drives me crazy. I'm just tired of seeing it for the last 9 years here, being like, oh, it's tomorrow the letting, and here we are again, so there's little things that just drive me crazy.
So Judge, I take, sometimes I take credit, but really there's a lot of folks that put in a lot of work and, to be able to get these projects done, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't probably be having this conversation, right? So again, want to just thank staff back at the Laredo District and even division staff that helps put these projects together, along with consultants and obviously you all here at the MPO. So
I think by the time we let Char Ruthinger out, we're gonna be looking for landing pads for our individual little drone place, We're gonna be beyond that. They're
Hopefully not.
2050 or something,
hopefully not.
Do you think I can add something to this? And by
Add it.
no means, and I think, Judge, you mentioned it right, perfection is always in progress, and construction, you can see it all over, not only Webb County, but you see it over here. I'm not gonna throw a wrench in it, but what can we do together? Here, we have city, county, we have TxDOT, we have RMA. What can we do to address the Cuatro Vientos South? Ongoing accidents that we have, fatalities that we have. I know we spoke about it briefly in Commissioner's Court, but this is the group that can put our heads together and do something to be able to address it. I don't even know what's wrong with it, but, you know, it's been taking too many lives. What is the issue? What can we come up with besides raising awareness as a community? I don't know, Mr. Gonzalez.
Mr. Brown asked for.
You know, and I'm glad you bring that up. Starting in September, do I have my date correct? And I'm glad we have consultants with us here today from the RMA. We are starting a study called Safe Streets for All Grant. We received a $2 million allocation to study ways to make our streets better throughout our entire community, not focusing on any part of town, but all of town. We're aware of the problems along Cuatro Vientos, and that'll be a big part of the study. The goal of the study, which takes about 18 months, which I know sounds like an eternity, is to identify the problem areas and go after implementation dollars, where we can actually get some money as a second phase of the grant to go address problems like that. All these things take a lot longer than I certainly would want them to, but we are taking steps to help identify that. And certainly, Commissioner, if you know of specific areas, communicate that to us. But I think that the work that's done, working with the county, the city, TxDOT, the different departments from DPS, the City of Laredo Traffic Department, LPD, everything gets considered as to where the propensity of accidents occur. And so resulting from that study should hopefully be less accidents. That's the whole goal of that.
You study, we build. Let's move forward. Collaboration. Yes, ma'am.
So I just want to add to the fact that, you know, we do have a very well-functioning group of, I think, elected officials and staff and everybody in the community looking to make Laredo, you know, and Webb County become, you know, better every single day that we can. One of the suggestions that I'd like to add, Commissioner, is that with the Mines Road issues that we've had, and we kind of, we created a coalition to tackle the Mines Road issues. And so apart from the MPO and apart from council, and we kind of meet and talk about, I think it might be worthwhile to create like a coalition specifically to attack that issue. And if it's maybe talking to the youth, talking to the kids at the high schools, maybe working with TxDOT on the drivers when they go get their permits. Maybe we can implement an additional requirement on them before they get their permit to take some kind of class that talks about the dangers of speeding and, you know, not to be distracted driving and things like that. I don't know what TxDOT has, but maybe we can come up with some kind of additional requirement locally for the youth, and maybe we can work on some kind of education program through the schools or through the parents somehow to talk about this issue. Maybe just bring more awareness to it, create a campaign or something.
No, I agree. I totally agree, and awareness is key right now. We do have Webb County Precinct 1 and Precinct 2. We have District 1 and District 2 within the city that all share this road, obviously TxDOT, RMA. I think if we put our heads together and start, you know, addressing this issue as a whole, I think, you know, at the end of the day, it's the community safety at hand, and I think we can move forward with something that we can implement. But raising awareness is going to be key as well. Yes.
Maybe we can through here or through, I don't know how we would spearhead it, but.
A subcommittee? Start off with a subcommittee, maybe bring an item back next
We can put an item on the agenda for next month to discuss safety. And of course, I mean, we don't want to duplicate anything the Army is going to start doing. We can have conversations with your team as well, and we can address Cuatro Vientos.
I think maybe, Judge, what we could do here is put an agenda item on like a monthly basis, kind of how we do with HR Ruthinger, where we could address like work that's been done.
That's been on a yearly basis.
Excuse me?
It's been on a yearly basis.
Well, I know, but at one point they wanted to take it off the monthly. This was before you here, we're here.
Yeah.
And we were, so I think if we have it on to talk about every month, you know, like
Keeps us in the
some more,
forefront.
it'll just kind of
Keeps
keep
it in the forefront of the mind. Epi, I'm sorry, you have a couple of words?
Sure. So Commissioner, we have, obviously, we have a lot of, safety is our number one priority, right? I mean, from safety of our employees, obviously, to the traveling public, as we're well aware of, we have that Mission Zero, that, we're trying to reduce fatal crashes by the year 2050 across the entire state, right? But, we look at fatal crashes, we review them, we look at it from the approach of the engineering, education, and the enforcement side, right? And obviously, we review these crashes and, to see if there's any additional safety enhancements that can be added to prevent further fatal crashes, or perhaps even at other locations that may have, similar characteristics, right? So we always do that, behind the scenes, but, we'd certainly be more than happy to work with you on a special, committee or anything like that, so.
Judge, I have a question. So if you already do the analysis and acquire the data, it probably would be worthwhile if you all would kind of share that as a talking point with us. I don't know if this would be the appropriate place, but I would definitely like to know what you guys gathered from it. But more than that, it would be good to help with this coalition that could hopefully be created so that you all can provide that data, add law enforcement in there, or some PD and sheriff. And if you need like an agreement with the city, just let us know so we can bring it up for discussion. But I think we do need to tackle the issue because it's been happening a lot down there, but it's been a citywide issue. There's been a lot of distracted driving. There's been a lot of fatalities, and especially in our younger youth. Like there's something going on.
Judge, Judge, I guess, can it merit bring back an item for next month to see if we can kickstart something like this?
You don't mind,
But I
please,
think
bring it
it's,
Very well.
Yes,
it was
we will.
one.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank
Let's
you.
move on. Let's go ahead and have director's comments. Short, sweet, to the point.
All right, thank you. So I'll start off by congratulating Epi and his team. Congratulations on that successful letting. I was going to mention the Board of Trade Advisory Committee meeting is on August 22nd in McAllen. So that's next Tuesday. It starts at 8:30. I can go ahead and share that agenda with you all. I know there's a council meeting the night before, and I know there's discussions of who would attend. I will be attending myself, so I'll be there and I can report back to the committee. Mr. Brown had also mentioned a letter of support. We also provided that letter of support to the MPO. Coordinated with the chair, it was before our next meeting, so the chair agreed to sign that, and that went to the city of Laredo for their DOT reduction of truck emissions at port facilities grant program for the signalization project that they're doing. The other thing I wanted to add, some time back, some of you that might have been here back in 2020 might remember there's a study from Fort Worth to Laredo on high-speed transportation study, and it was through an initiative of 6 MPOs along the I-35 corridor, including ourselves. So recently, the North Texas Council of Governments reached out again to the MPOs to reinitiate those discussions. They're having conversation with those 6 MPOs as well as with TxDOT. I know they've sent out a letter to Mark Williams at TxDOT requesting a meeting to reinitiate those conversations. As more details become available, I'll be bringing those to you. And yeah, that's all I had. The next meetings are here on the report. The next meeting will be September 20th, 2023 for the Policy Committee. I heard that chambers might be undergoing remodeling, so I think we're going to be accommodated somewhere else, but I'll let you all know on that.
Very well. Any other
Questions?
comments, questions? We might have an opportunity to take it to the county.
Yeah.
We'll have to make it work, but we'll be just fine. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. You caught it.